to be used for fiscal year 2023. So it's just a little heads up that that's coming in the future. And then the last comment on the next page, this is another reminder that there's a new GASB that's taking place for the leases. It's taking effect with the June 30th, 2022 fiscal year. Under the new provisions, substantially all leases with a term of more than 12 months are required to be reported on the statement of financial position as a right to use asset and a financing liability measured at the present value. I believe when I looked, what we know about is you are leasing some copiers, so those leases will have to be looked at and probably incorporated into this if it's material. And then you should probably check and make sure that you don't have any other leases that we aren't aware of, like any vehicles or anything else that you might have entered into within the last year. And then the rest of this letter is just standard items. We had cooperation on the audit. We didn't have any uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements with management. I'm not going to go through that in too much more detail. Do you have any questions for me?
Board members, questions? Ms. Peterson.
Hi, yes, good evening. Thank you for the detail in the report. I guess in summary, my question to you is, as it relates to the findings, does there come a time where the expectation is that those findings are corrected? And if so, if you can elaborate a little bit on that and what that looks like from year to year during the auditing process.
Of the three, I think that the only one that really could significantly go away is the audit entries. I would suggest that the staff just look at the entries that we made at the end of the year and try to incorporate them in before we come out there and get it all cleaned up before we're there. When it comes to the financial statements, I mean, a lot of my clients have that just because they don't have a CPA on staff necessarily that is able to prepare them, and they're asking us to do that for them. So I don't see that one going away. And segregation of duties without hiring more people to be able to split things up more, that probably can't go away either. So I would anticipate those would stay, but the audit entries you could probably work on.
Okay, but there never comes a time, or does it ever come a time where we are in some type of problem or issue if we continue to not be able to segregate the duties, or the financial statement preparation has the issues? Is there ever a time where that becomes problematic?
I don't envision that being problematic related to your grants. They're more concerned about if there's some kind of compliance finding that you're not meeting.
Sure.
I think they understand that, smaller entities just don't have the capability to hire someone to prepare these financial statements on their own.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Thank you so very much.
Any other board members have questions for Carrie in relationship to the audit? As we could see that there were actually 3 actual items that we would probably need to look at for a corrective action plan, and 2 of those items were the things that Carrie kind of let us know that because of the size of our district and the size of our staffing in relationship to our financial management, it's a little bit more difficult to do, but there isn't any malfeasance, there isn't anything that's actually going wrong. The only one is adjusting those journal entries, and I'm quite sure that's something that within our business manager and the accountants and financial individuals, that'll be something that we can fix and make those corrections on.
Yes, I'll just clarify that quickly. We did review the ones from we did have journal entries a year ago as well. That was part of the audit. We had a few this year. Kathy Kelser, the accountant, and I have reviewed them. As Carrie mentioned, we make the adjustment, and sometimes it's some knowledge that we just didn't have that now we know going forward in future years. So part of it is the level of experience of the staff at this point. So there are just a few things that maybe get miscoded or put in the wrong spot, and then we will make those adjustments as we need to. But we are learning every year, and hopefully those numbers will reduce as we go, and eventually when the journal entries will no longer be necessary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Klimick. Any other board members have any questions in relationship to the audit? I know that in reading that, the document was 66 pages long, and it was a long read. But again, as I always say, like this is when we come to the audit and all the rest of these different things, this is like one of the major functions of being a good board and being, making sure we are carrying on our fiduciary responsibilities and understanding kind of where we're at. So thank you very much, everybody, for reading through all 66 pages, and our accounting firm for getting back to us and letting us know kind of exactly where we're at and what we need to be able to do. With that being said, any other questions from board members for Carrie? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. All right. So with that being said, let's go on to now we have the presentation, and now we need to have an approval of the financial audit. Would someone like to make a motion?
Dr. Beadle, this is Felita Daniels. Actually, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2021 district financial audit as presented this evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. A motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I will
Dr. Beadle, I'll second.
Okay, was that Lisa first? Nicole? All right, who made the second? Because it seemed like two people did it at the same time. Who would like to make the second?
I will go on and make the second. This is Ms. Peterson, Dr. Beadle.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson.
Nicole and I both trying to move so quickly here.
Okay, so a motion has been made by Ms. Ashley, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Any discussion before we go to vote? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and/or aye. And 7. All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0. Thank you very much for our auditing firm and Mr. Klimek for you and your team's diligence to looking at our financial position and being able to get that information together. All right, let's go on to item B, facilities and grounds report. Mr. Meitzke.
Good evening, Board of Education members and community members. This evening, I would like to give you an update on the last month of what has been happening in the Facilities and Grounds Department. We did have a break in the middle there. That doesn't mean that my team was not working during that time. But the largest items that we were able to accomplish in the last month is ALICE training. So we were able to get a number of our staff trained in ALICE. We will continue on that path to get all of our new staff up to date in their ALICE training, but we have to do things a little bit differently with the pandemic. We're not able to just do a one fell swoop of 200 staff members. Rather, we are going to break it into smaller groups, and that way we will be able to meet the objective of keeping everybody healthy to the best of our abilities, as well as training everybody in ALICE. So that is going to be coming up in the next PD day, but we did start that last month. We will also have a safety assessment next week throughout the district. WSCA, which is the Wisconsin School Safety Coordinators Association, is going to be on site for 2 days. They will be performing a school safety audit for us, and any findings that they have, they will bring them to us, and we will be able to look at them and find ways that we can overcome those gaps in our processes throughout the district. So that's something that's really positive and should be looked at as a positive endeavor. And the final thing that I'd like to bring up is that we have had an increase in injuries at the elementary school playground over the last couple of years. The playground itself is not very old. It's about 10 years, which might sound like it's old, but most play structures will last 30 years, especially one like that. It's Burke equipment, which is a great line. They have a great warranty. They've been fantastic to work with. Whenever we've had issues, they have repaired them or replaced the items very quickly. So what we're going to do as a first step in establishing how the injuries are occurring is to have a playground rodeo. And Lee Recreation is our distributor of Burke equipment, and they are going to come on site and they'll be teaching the kids every grade level how to safely play on the equipment. So we're hoping that that makes a big difference. I think that a lot of times the kids just see it and they run to it and they play on it without really understanding how the equipment should be used. So that's going to be a really positive event that will be coming up in February at the end of the month. And that is my facilities and grounds update for the month. If anybody has any questions from the board, I would be happy to answer them.
Board members, questions for Ms. Smyska? Only question I would have is the relationship to the equipment. And when we know it's only 10 years old, what exactly is the shelf life for the equipment? And if there is some equipment that is there that we need to make some changes to, could we make sure that we get that information to Mr. Clinic or whatever, and to make sure that we are able to try to find some money in the budget to make sure that we have equipment that's age appropriate and safe, and our kids that actually want to be out there and want to play with. So
yeah, those are great questions, Dr. Beadle. So absolutely. The playground rodeo is really the first step. And Megan, who is our rep from Lee Recreation, she is going to a conference this week down in Florida, which I wish I was there because Burr, but she is going to see all the newest equipment. And so much like any industry, the playground equipment is constantly changing and evolving and getting better. So we are going to reach out to her. If there are certain pieces of equipment that are not really meeting our needs, we can just simply replace those. We don't need to have a whole new play set installed. But if that is the case, we will absolutely be bringing something to the board for approval or for just discussion and approval in the future. But I don't envision that happening. Now, to respond to your first question regarding shelf life, it really depends on the piece of equipment, but typically some of these play sets can last 30 years. So not that we would necessarily want something that is 30 years old, but it will last us that long, especially if we consistently maintain it, replace pieces that are broken, and utilize that great warranty that they do offer us.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Jody. I really appreciate it. And I'm quite sure you and your team will be able to get us exactly where we need to be at and get the information forwarded to the business office.
Sure thing.
Thank you very much. Any other board members, any questions, other questions for Jody? All right. Thank you very much. All right. Let's go on to item C, discussion for consent agenda, safety drills. Okay. Now, would that be Dr. Kelsey Brown?
That's Jody.
That's me. Yep.
That's
That's
still
me
Jody?
again,
Okay, I'm
Dr.
sorry.
Beadle.
All right. Okay.
That's okay.
Yep. So moving forward, we will be adding all of our safety drills to the consent agenda. And that's just to get us in compliance with the Wisconsin statutes surrounding school safety. So in my memo, I wanted to include what the drills look like, what you will see moving forward so that you as a board can see those, be made aware of them, and approve them on a monthly basis. So that's really all I wanted to do, is just let you know that that will be coming at the next board meeting. But if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them if I can.
Right. And actually just kind of reading through everything, actually sounds like a good idea for us to be able to go through and be able to look at that on a monthly basis to ensure that those safety precautions are happening, whether that is the fire drills or all the rest of the different drills that are actually happening. All right, questions for Jody in relationship to our consent agenda, the district safety drills.
I have a question. How often are you doing the various drills? Because this list seems to primarily consist of fire drills. So how often are you required to do those?
So it's a little subjective, but I'll try to answer it the best as I can because it's concrete yet subjective. So as a school district, we are held to conduct 12 safety drills in a year. 12 drills of like a fire drill or a tornado drill, along with one safety drill, meaning a lockdown drill. So if we wanted to do all 12 in 1 month, we could certainly do that. I don't recommend that. And so typically you'll see the cadence of one fire drill per month per building. We also in the springtime typically hold a tornado drill. There's Tornado Awareness Week, and we hold our tornado drill during that time. And we do conduct safety drills as well. We are required to conduct 2 safety drills per year, but those can also qualify as lockdown drills, or when we have any ALICE training or anything like that, that would qualify as a safety drill. Does that answer your question, Ms. Robinson?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Quick question, Jody. Are we requiring all staff to go through the ALICE training or only certain staff members?
Yes, all staff should be taking that ALICE training.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions, board members? All right, thank you very much, Jody. All right, well, now let's go on to our next item, which is our business office report. Mr. Klimick.
Good evening again. Just a couple of quick items to bring to your attention this week. We did, as you remember, back in November, the board asked for a waiver from DPI for the calculation used for private school parent transportation contracts. We did receive the waiver over the Christmas break, and last week we sent out the letters to those parents. And so the contracts, we send out the contract, they have to sign it and send it back to us, and then we will be making payments in June for those eligible families. I am in the process of trying to quickly restart contract negotiations or potential contract negotiations with Go Right Way. If you remember that at the end of this school year, our contract will be up. And so just trying to figure out if there is a way, just considering this environment that we're in for all bus companies, to see if there is a financially tenable agreement we can come up with that kind of gives us something to plan for and allows us to go into the next year. Otherwise, if we are unable to come to an agreement relatively quickly, we will have to start looking at an RFP for transportation services so that we can have that done in a timely fashion as well. So I have the RFP that we did 5 years ago, so I'm starting to modify that because one way or another, we'll have to do an RFP in the next few years. But I do have a meeting, it's not scheduled yet, but we're trying to figure out a time on Friday to meet with Go Right Way. So I'll have some update after that to see how close we could be. And my hope would be to present something to the board at the end of the month. And then if the board, if we're close or we're interested, I can go one direction. If we're not, then I'll pursue the RFP possibility, and then we'll start to prepare that so we can have that ready to go in February. And I did one other thing that I know when we had talked previously about the extension, how many years did we look at? I did also review our RFP schedule for a number of different things. And in 2 years, we have to go out for food service again. So I'm not going to recommend a 2-year extension if that's what it comes down to for Go Right Way, because that would be too much to try to do a transportation and food service in the same spring. So really, we're looking at maybe a year. If it's a really good deal, maybe 3 years. But I think more likely it might be a 1-year extension if we can come to an agreement for that. And then finally, just to let you know, we're just finalizing the pod that we talked about. Unfortunately, there were some delays in getting the drawings and just finishing up that process. So it's very likely that the pod won't be installed until summer. Potentially, it could be spring break, but most likely it'll be over the summer, which means it'll be something we'll have in place for next fall. But hopefully, we'll again, that's a Fund 50 expense that we're looking for ways to spend that money, because we continue to get more funds every month than we know what to do with. So it will continue to grow until we can come up with something massive to spend money on, and that'll be one thing, will be the pod. So we're working on that. So are there any other questions regarding the business office update?
Board members, questions? Ms. Peterson.
Kevin, I'm just going back to Right Way and the contracts and its extensions. How are things going with transportation? I know at the beginning of the year, there were some issues with driver shortages and things of that nature. Have things calmed down now? Can you tell us a little bit about how things are going?
Sure. While not perfect, we did reduce from 8 routes to 7, which has stabilized us a little bit. We have the app in place now, which I've heard positive things from anecdotally from community members. Although we do have the occasional situation where, in fact, I think it was last week, we had one route that did not follow the route completely. It was a different driver, I think, than what had usually been there. And so we had a couple of families that did not, or there was some neighborhoods that didn't get picked up. And so we had to address that with them. I think that was one day that occurred. So that we still have those issues because they haven't stabilized their workforce yet, certainly. But I would say that compared to the beginning of the year, it's gotten a lot better. And I think having that having that app in place that communicates with families certainly has been a positive. So I think, is it great? No, but I'm not sure it's great in any
Anywhere, yeah.
transportation right now. So, but I would say it's improved since the beginning of the year.
All right, Kevin, that's good to hear. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Any other board members, questions for Mr. Clemming?
I have one other question, and it's just a follow-up to Anita's question regarding just while we're, vetting and trying to get get quotes from transportation companies. Are we thinking about just looking at a completely different transportation company and pulling a quote or estimate just for comparison's sake?
Well, that would be if we did the RFP, we would go through the full process where we would put it out there and then let companies bid, and then we'd be comparing each individual company. My concern is that it's likely that I think we're going to see an increase regardless. My guess is that if we can keep it closer to the contract that we're under, if we can come up with a percentage increase from where we are, that's amenable to the board and to the district, I think it'll be more likely that it'll be less than if we go out to bid. We don't know. Somebody could come in and undercut, but just considering where every bus company is right now, it causes me pause to do that. And the last time we did do this in 2017, we were offered an extension from the carrier at the time. The board decided to go out to RFP, and we did end up paying more in the end because all the bids came in higher than what. So it's a little bit of a gamble. I just think this year, especially, it's not ideal. But again, if we can't come up with a plan that we're comfortable continuing it the right way, and certainly if the service hadn't improved, I wouldn't consider it. But I'd like to at least see what we can generate with them as a partner. And if it does work, it might be nice to do for one more year, and then look at an RFP going forward. So.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to ask you, I think I heard some chatter yesterday about the app not working properly and showing that some kids were in one location for an extended period of time versus showing that the bus was actually moving. Did you hear anything about that?
Other than the incident I mentioned about last week, I have not heard anything this week regarding complaints, but I can reach out to the schools and see if they heard something. That doesn't always get to the business office because sometimes the schools handle those questions directly, but I'll reach out and ask.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Clemming? All right, here it says, all right, thank you very much, Kevin. All right. Let's go on to our item number 3, our COVID-19 update. Dr. Kelsey Brown and Nurse Farrington.
Good evening, board members, and Happy New Year to everyone. First, my COVID update. First, let me thank our administrators, our teachers, our support staff, parents, and students, all of whom are making a concerted effort to navigate these very trying times. The mental health and socio-emotional state of our students is being impacted in addition to our focus on academics, as we all well know. What we also know is students benefit from in-person learning, and safely returning to in-person instruction continues to be our priority. Before I begin with our COVID update, allow me to take you back to 2020-2021 school year, where we implemented a 5-phase approach to bringing our students back to school. We started out virtual for 3 weeks to give our staff members a chance to become more adept at teaching virtually. As we transitioned through the phases from one quarter to the next, our ultimate goal was and has always been to transition all of our students back to in-person learning. In the last quarter, rather than returning to 5 days a week, we stayed with the Monday, Tuesday, virtual Wednesday, Thursday, Friday option. With that, as we were planning for the 2021-22 school year, the school year we're currently in, believing that COVID would be on the decline, we continued to plan for all of our students to be back in school on September 1st, 2021. Mission accomplished. We continue to work toward and have every intention on keeping our buildings open for in-person learning, as we all know in-person learning is the best mode of learning for our students. A virtual option the board approved a virtual option through a partnership with the Kiel School District for families who were immune compromised. And we do have families who did take advantage of that option. What I would like for our community to understand is in no way are we negating the COVID cases and all that is happening outside of us. But what we have learned in this experience is we can only do our very best to respond to those areas that are within our locus of control, and that those are the pieces that are happening inside of our buildings. Fast forward to the 2021-22 school year. We were sailing along with in-person learning in all three buildings while continuing to navigate the challenges of COVID, including not being fully staffed, and particularly at the middle school for a variety of reasons. Some related to COVID illnesses, others were quarantined. There are other staff who were simply, or we call it regular sick here, just regular illnesses, FMLAs, and then staff resignations. All of this can look very different on any given day. With that being said, the elementary school went virtual for 2 weeks due to staffing, and now the middle school. Note that although we returned to in-person, while we have returned to in-person learning, students, teachers, staff, and administration continues to be responsive to navigating the COVID world. We have all had to pivot to meet the needs of our school families and staff. And yes, to say the least, it has been quite the journey. Our threshold was centered around staffing, which was a consideration for in the event that 10% of our staff were unable to come to work on a given day, we would consider a return to virtual. This does not mean we would go to virtual as long as principals can figure out how to make it work in our buildings, of which they have done an amazing job. We did not set a threshold for students. A threshold was set the year before with the observance of a 14-day decline in the trajectory of the virus. And for those of you that were with us last year, the 14-day decline never happened. And we continue to navigate that same space. Vaccinations. We held a vaccination clinic on December 18th at the elementary school in the Deb Kerr Community Room. We are proud to announce that 185 people took advantage of the vaccination clinic. Another vaccination clinic is scheduled to take place on Saturday, or this Saturday, January 15th from 10 to 2. We will be getting information out to our families very shortly. I would also like to say thank you to the staff members who showed up on the day in December to help support this endeavor. The Brown Deer Police Department, President Wanda Montgomery, Board Member Dorinthia Robinson, PTO President Nadia Mendez, a representative from Children's Hospital and the United States military personnel, and a host of other volunteers were with us on that day. Again, another vaccination clinic will be held this Saturday from 10 to 2 at the elementary school in the Deb Kerr Community Room. This is in partnership with the North Shore Health Department. Their representatives will be with us, and we will also have our continued partnership with Miss Erica from Health Connections. Health Connections was also on site last week and this week Wednesday, meaning tomorrow, and Thursday to test. Testing is for staff and students with parent permission. Mitigation protocols. We continue to contact trace. Just a reminder, the board approved a bipolar ionization system in all of our buildings that mitigates the virus. We continue to wear facial coverings. We are one district that has, one of few districts that has continued to wear facial coverings since the beginning of this pandemic. We continue to keep our hand sanitizing stations filled, and then we also continue to navigate the quarantining and isolation requirements. While we all know that the requirements have now changed to a 5-day quarantine isolation period, we are meeting as a team to make the best determination for when we will move to the 5-day quarantine for staff first. Ms. Schmeiska has reached out to an agency to assist us with the contact tracing. The estimated contract amount was $80,000 just for contact tracing. We also reached out to an agency to secure an additional nurse, to no avail at this current time. Ms. Harrington and her health aides are continuing to make this work until we can get additional assistance to support us in this process. With that, we continue to receive a high volume of phone calls from parents. We are very well aware of that. Addressing each and every one has been a challenge, but we are making a concerted effort to be responsive. The health office will continue to answer calls to the best of their ability, and this also includes emails. We continue to connect with the North Shore Health Department to make us aware of students who are positive so that we can make sure they are not inside of our buildings. Staffing. Staffing has been a concern for us since the beginning of the year. Again, middle school in particular has made a good faith effort to hold on despite the number of vacancies, including individuals who are out on FMLA. 2 drop-in sessions were held last fall, one on a Sunday and one on a Tuesday to invite candidates in for on-site interviews. Individuals who are choosing teaching as a profession continues to wane. And so understanding there are not many individuals, or the number of individuals going into education over time now continues to decrease. Lack of substitute teachers layered with COVID does make this a challenge every day. Positions are posted to weekend, and contact has been made with colleges and universities to connect with recent graduates to see if they're still looking for jobs if they are considered a viable candidate for us here in Brown Deer. Staff, SEL. Staff members who are able to make it work are subbing when they can, which makes for very long days. Staff prep time is compromised as a result, we all know. Staff are working late evenings to be as prepared as possible for the following day, including responding to student emails when students are reaching out for help. As we were planning for this year, we shared with our teachers we were coming back to in-person learning to alleviate the need for them to teach in a hybrid format, as the sentiment of trying to do both was taxing as well. PLC meetings for the month of January we have pressed the pause button on PLC meetings to give staff more time to plan when needed and to collaborate virtually if they feel the need to do so. Finally, I will end with the district dashboard on the website will be updated shortly. The initial dashboard was reflective of positive cases by building, and now we have segregated the positive case data by grade level. And so that will be going live very shortly. And that ends my COVID update for this evening. And if there are any questions I can answer, please feel free to ask.
All right, board members, question in relationship to our COVID-19 update. Thank you so much, actually, Dr. Kelsey Brown, for that that report. Board members, questions in relationship to COVID-19 and our update.
Dr. Brown, can you remind us when the middle school will be returning?
They will be returning semester, Dr. Garrison? But the date escapes me.
That semester, February 24th.
January.
January, not February, not
okay.
February, January.
Dr. Brown,
Yes.
I just wanted everyone to know, I know you talked about the work that we are doing in the health office, and just to provide you guys a general number, incoming and outgoing calls since September 1st has been about 6,800 into the health offices. And since January 1st, my team has made about 453 calls in and out to parents, and this does not include cell phone or email. So the volume that we are getting is great. So I just wanted to piggyback on that, Dr. Brown. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farrington.
Other questions? Ms. Smith?
I have a question. Hi, Dr. Brown. Could you just clarify the threshold again? Was that 10% for staff, the staff? Could you just
Teachers.
repeat it?
Yes, 10% for teachers.
Certificated staff.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Board members? Ms. Peterson?
Just two real quick questions. The first is, what were the calls related to? Were those calls questioning vaccination? Were those calls
Everything.
indicating, yeah, what were those calls that were just discussed related to by the nurse?
So those calls are calls related to COVID, calls related to playground injuries, calls related to health, IEP 504. Those calls are anything health related. It may be calls into, you know, families for a variety of reasons.
Okay. Okay. So they weren't all directly related to COVID.
No, they were
Okay.
not all directly related to COVID. There is probably a great percentage of them related to COVID.
Okay, my second question is, I know that we have just come back to school, and throughout the city and the state, actually, there are concerns about the uptick as it relates to COVID happening. How are things going in our district as it relates to that? Are we seeing an uptick with our students or staff? I know we have the staff shortages that we continually are hearing about, unfortunately, but as it relates to our students, are we hearing or seeing an uptick in them as well?
Yes, we are. So our district is really a direct relation to what the North Shore Health Department is seeing on a smaller scale. So as their numbers go up, so do ours. So we've not seen 80 cases to this point. And so, yes, cases are continuing to rise. And, you know, we are doing everything that we can to mitigate the virus, including, you know, getting the children out of the building that are positive and contact tracing their close contacts.
And then finally, we are still doing the testing here on site on a daily basis. Is that correct?
No, we are testing 1 day a week in each of our buildings.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Nurse Farrington, I just want to follow up with the question in terms of the once a week testing in each of the schools. The staff feel that that is adequate? Do you have the numbers that are availing themselves to testing as you'd like to see?
I think that once a week has worked up till this point. I am noticing that we don't have the numbers of students that I would like to see testing. We need more parent permission to test. We can't just go test every student, but when it is available, staff definitely will utilize it, and athletics utilizes the testing. So we are seeing good amounts of testing. I don't think that more than once a week at this point would do much different.
Okay. My other question has to do with the vaccination clinic that you are hosting, that you hosted in December, and that it sounds like you're going to host another one this weekend. And I'm wondering, in terms of those who have participated in the clinic, is it a combination of your Brown Deer School community and the village residents? Is it in terms of who's visiting the clinic? Can you give us some idea who those individuals are? Are they your school community, or is it Brown Deer in general?
Absolutely. So I want to say we saw a number of our younger 12 and under students coming in to get their initial shots. We had lots of teachers coming in to get their boosters. Maybe some of them were first-time vaxxers. And there was also a few community members that we talked to coming in, but most of them have been our Brown Deer School District staff and families.
Thank you.
Any other board members with questions? Nurse Farrington, quick question. If a person does come and get the shot, say this Saturday, it could be either shot number 1, number 2, or the booster, correct?
Absolutely. Shot number 1, the booster. And because this is our second clinic, if you come and get your first shot, Health Connections will reach out to you directly for the second shot if this is your first time. But yes, they have everything. And if the 12 and under booster is recommended, they will have that too. We are just waiting on the recommendation from the CDC.
Okay, and so a person needs to bring their card that they've already had, if they've already had shot 1 and 2 or 1, and just need to bring their card, and that card, once they get the shot, their card will be signed off on to make it official?
Yes, so if you bring your card, then Erica will be able to put a sticker on and you have 1 card. If you don't have your card, you really want to go onto the Wisconsin Immunization Registry to get the date of your first one. That's very important that we know what date you got your first shot. So yes.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. And then I guess my last piece is, I just want to make sure that I had this number correct. We've had 6,800 calls to the health office so far this year?
Into 4 health lines. So each health office has its own phone, and I have a phone in each office. So that was recorded from 4 lines only.
Wow, we got enough staff to handle all of the phone calls on top of the other nursing duties that have to happen. That, I mean, to me, that just seems as though, do we got enough staff doing all of this?
As Dr. Brown mentioned, Dr. Beadle, we have reached out to, I believe, 2 or more agencies looking for additional help in the health offices. I think what we are butted up against is, COVID is an ongoing conversation, and it's also a snapshot in time. So you could be feeling great today, and unfortunately tomorrow you may be feeling down, and you may have the COVID-19 virus. So we have reached out to 2 additional or more additional platforms for additional help. As it currently stands, this is a large volume, but the Omicron variant does spread a lot quicker than we all expected.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to be able to make sure that I had those numbers correct and stuff, because I know as far as nursing goes and everything and that health department, just having that sheer number of telephone calls coming through, and then the other 400 plus going back out to parents, it almost seems like the majority of the day might just be answering telephone calls. So I just wanted to make sure about that. Ms. Robinson, hold on, I see you, Ms. Robinson. Ms. Robinson, you have a question?
Yeah. Do you have a comparison number for us for like what call volume would be like on previous years?
Ms. Robinson, I can respond to that. So we do not right now. This was a last minute data point just to give some perspective as far as how many calls we are fielding and having outgoing to respond to questions, not only related to COVID, but to the other activities within the health office. So we're happy to provide that. I don't know if it'll really give you a good understanding of how the 2 years relate, because we've had so many odd years the last couple. So we might have to go back a few years to even get that number, but we can take a look at it and see what we can find. What I can say is that since January 1st, we have made and received 453 calls in those health offices. So that's a high number of call volume. And it's not as though those calls are 2 seconds and then we're hanging up. We are having to we're having to educate and really communicate fully to our community, because the guidelines keep changing and it's very confusing if this is not your world that you live in. And so that education part is so critical, and we're not negating that at all. And that's why you're seeing that high number of call volume, because we're finding that those voice-to-voice communications are so much more impactful and effective than an email correspondence could ever be.
So another question, just something that I thought about. I don't know if you guys have thought about it at all, but has there been any thought given to, you know, how the city and the county were doing their daily updates last year, I guess, more so, and the year before? Has there been any thought to maybe doing like just a daily update, recorded something that you could play to kind of field some of those questions to kind of reduce that call volume a bit?
We try with the district nurse email as a way for parents to also communicate with us. And I tell you that parents will still call in to speak to us and to hear a voice, even after an email, which is okay. You know, we love to educate parents and let them know, but we find that parents want to speak with someone directly.
Okay.
Mr. McGregory, did you have something that you wanted to add? I see the hand piece up.
Well, I just wanted to add to everybody that athletics is also feeling the impact of COVID, particularly started over the winter break, where we had shut down the boys athletic team for about a week and a half. Boys swim was shut down for about a week. We just recently, yesterday, shut down the girls basketball team until next week, Tuesday. And then also we shut down the 4th and 5th grade girls basketball. All of this is related to COVID, either close contact and or coaches or players or members of players, families testing positive. So it's been very challenging, and the uptick is really being felt. Not only with at our school, but some of our teams, some of the schools in our conference as well have pivoted in terms of spectators policies, so on and so forth, things like that. We too are going to be pivoting with the spectator to try to just be more vigilant and staying safe. It's been very challenging with spectators with masks, not wearing masks, just getting in situations you don't want to get into because it's personal beliefs and things like that. So I just wanted to share, I really appreciate Sharonda and Jody because they do a lot of the heavy lifting with the contact tracing, but it's been very challenging starting about the winter break.
All right, board members, any other questions?
I think Jody has her hand up, Dr. Beadle.
Okay,
Thank
Jody,
you.
did you have, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I wanted to answer Ms. Robinson's question, but I also wanted to kind of add a little bit more from my perspective as far as what I'm seeing. So obviously this COVID pandemic is not just relegated to brown deer. So this is obviously something that we're seeing globally. So the problems that we see here are also the problems that everybody else is experiencing, but it does not negate the amount of work that it takes to try to wrap our arms around this problem and to try to do our very best to keep our kids and families and community healthy. Now, we can only control what we can control. And unfortunately, the virus is not something that we can control. We can control how we react, the processes, procedures, and how we handle the cases internally. But I would say that it is not only bleeding into a lot of people's home lives, but it's taking over, because with that call volume that we are seeing in our health offices, there are lots of tasks that are not able to be completed during that normal workday because we are educating and answering questions. And so there have been many days when I know that Sharonda and I are texting back and forth, at 9 o'clock at night. And so that work-life balance it just doesn't exist anymore. So when we think about the mental toll that this is taking, I just want everybody to understand that it is real, that we are seeing it from administrators' perspectives. I see it from a parent perspective. I can see the teachers, I can see my staff, I can see everybody. And so it is difficult. And I really want everybody to understand that we are doing the very best that we can throughout this. But this virus, this particular mutation of this virus is incredibly infectious. Whereas before we were seeing people who are close contacts, perhaps exhibiting symptoms 5 days down after being in contact with somebody who is positive, we are now seeing a very quick turnaround. So 2 days after a contact. And so whereas before we would have a little bit more time before the dominoes start to fall, the dominoes are falling much quicker now. And so, you know, it is a matter of educating. It is always a matter of educating, but we are up against a very steep hill right now. And so I guess as a final thought is that I'm just imploring everybody who can hear this or who is going to review the minutes to, if you are ill, or if you are experiencing any symptoms, if you think you may have been in contact with somebody with COVID-19, please stay home. Please take those precautions seriously and consider getting tested.
Thank you so much, Jody, for that. I would call it an info commercial right there or whatever have you. You need to be the spokesperson for the Northfield Health Department. One of the things I do want to say from the board, Sharonda, you and your team, kudos, excellent job of trying to keep up with that. Jody and you and your team trying to keep our buildings together. The administrative team, you guys, hey, you know, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We know that everything that we're trying to do is to keep our kids, our children safe, our staff safe, keep our buildings clean, and watch out for our community. So again, you know, kind of Jody, from that part that you said, you know, between yourself and Sharonda, and the total number of hours that it's taking you guys to be able to do this, both in the building and outside of the building. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So on behalf of the board, thank you guys so much for everything that you guys are doing. Thank you. All right. Let's move on now to discussion of open enrollment. Mr. Clemick.
Good evening again. A lot of what is in the memo kind of relates to what we just talked about a little bit. So just a brief reminder about the open enrollment in question that we are faced with every year. In reviewing the memo that my predecessor shared with you last year, the board and the district was certainly in a much different place, where there was concern about the number of kids that would be coming back after a year of hybrid education, and so there was a concern, and I think to ensure that we would shore up revenue, there was a discussion about adding some open enrollment seats, something the district hadn't done in quite some time. So we did add 35 regular education seats, but in addition to that, this past September, we saw a huge jump, as we've already talked about, in enrollment. Right now, in September, we were at up 150 students from a year ago, and we are getting updated numbers. We're doing our second Friday count in January, this Friday, and right now the number is even higher, and it's approaching 1,700. So at this point, with all of the challenges that brings in and of itself, we don't believe as an administration that we need to open up any additional open enrollment seats for the 2022-23 school year. And we highlighted a couple of pieces of rationale, just talking about the fact that we obviously have had this large increase, which we're already struggling to address in the light of having staffing being an issue and maintaining proper building management. Trying to address the COVID-19 mitigation efforts is more difficult with more students. So adding more in addition to that would complicate that even further. We continue to try to provide additional services. We're obviously invested a lot in socio-emotional support for our students, and obviously more students requires even more investment. And then we're still kind of seeing what's happening through the Brown Deer community, where we had a large turnover in housing last year, which may have led to some of this increase. But we also have that market is continuing, as well as we do have another apartment complex coming online this year. So for all of those reasons, we feel fairly confident that our enrollment will remain flat or increase already without adding in additional seats. So come in 2 weeks, when we actually make this decision or ask you to make this decision, the administration is going to recommend approving 0 regular education seats and 0 special education seats for the 2022-23 school year. Are there any questions, or does any board member require additional information that we could prepare for you in advance of your vote in 2 weeks?
Board members, questions? I know that this is one of the areas that we had a in-depth conversation about last year when we even brought on board 35 additional seats. And we did have discussions in relationship to the new apartment complexes that were going up and you know, newer families moving in with children and everything. So it seems as though that our numbers for enrollment are actually going up fast from last year. And one of the reasons why we were actually really even considering open enrollment was because we did have open seats that were there in relationship to that. And it seems as though now that we're having more of our individuals wanting to come and have their education here within the district itself rather than going outside of and newer families coming in. So these are all good things for the village of Brown Deer, for the school district of Brown Deer. Board members, questions for Mr. Clemming? To get together and be ready for us for any questions for our next meeting. All right, thank you, Mr. Clemming, for that update. All right, let's go on to item number C, our parent-teacher conferences. Dr. Kelsey Brown.
Dr. Garrison.
Dr. Garrison, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yes,
that's fine. So yes, we will have our parent-teacher conferences this month. And actually, I want to make sure the dates are correct here. Give me 1 second to pull back up the agenda. I had to reset my computer. So parent-teacher conferences will be Wednesday, February the 16th. That date will be in person. And then the next day will be Thursday, February 17th. And that date will be virtual. Please note on both of those dates that both teachers and parents will need to communicate, of course, the preference that they may have for these opportunities. On that 17th, where we have that virtual option, some teachers may decide to stick around in buildings and still meet with teachers, and still meet with parents, which is definitely a possibility. So we just want to make sure that the February 17th date, although it does say virtual on our agenda here, it may be an opportunity for some of my parents to still meet with some of the teachers in person, as that could be a hybrid opportunity. Both dates, the parent-teacher conferences are from 4 to 8 o'clock. Again, from 4 to 8 o'clock.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Dr. Garrison? All right, thank you very much. All right, let's go on to our next item, item number 4, engaged and innovative staff, employment summary. Mr. Clemming.
Okay, we do have one new hire for approval tonight. Migdalia Dibro is a middle school Spanish teacher that we're still working on the start date. We expect her to start next week. We're just finalizing that date, but your motion does not have to list a start date, just that it's the 2021-22 school year.
All right, would someone like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Migdalia Dibro?
Migdalia. Yep, there you go.
Dr. Vito, I would like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Migdalia Dibro as a middle school Spanish teacher for the 2021-22 school year.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Dr. Beadle, I'll second. This is Felita.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. Motion has been made and second. Any conversation or discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and or aye. All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0. All right, we'll welcome Ms. Dibro to the Brown Deer family. All right, let's go on to item number 2, approval of resignations. Mr. Clemming.
And unfortunately, it's a net loss today, but we do have 2 staff members who have submitted their resignations, also both at the middle school. Kathleen Dimmer as a middle school music teacher and Holly Muehlbauer as a middle school science teacher.
Okay. All right, would someone like to make a motion to approve the resignations?
Dr. Beadle, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resignation of Kathleen Dimmer as a middle school band and music teacher effective January 21st, 2022, pending receipt of liquidated damages. I'd also like to make a motion to approve the resignation of Holly Muehlbauer as a middle school science teacher effective January 21st, 2022, pending receipt of liquidated damages.
All right, thank you very much, Nicole. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Just a point of order that you did 2 motions together.
Oh, it's got to be separated. So let's do this. So again, all right. So Nicole, let's just read the first one for Kathleen Dimmer.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resignation of Kathleen Dimmer as a middle school band and music teacher effective January 21st, 2022, pending receipt of liquidated damages.
All right, Nicole, thank you very much. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second Dr. Beadle. This is Anita Peterson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. The motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all approval, raise hand and/or aye. Okay, I was gonna say, okay. All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0. All right, and the approval for resignation for Holly Muehlbauer.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resignation of Holly Muehlbauer as a middle school science teacher effective January 21st, 2022, pending receipt of liquidated damages.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Zink. All right, motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and/or aye. All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0 for the resignation of Ms. Muehlbauer. All
Dr.
right.
Beadle,
Yes, yes, Ms. Dr. Kelsey Brown.
if I may, I want to wish Ms. Dimmer and Ms. Muehlbauer the very best as they transition to their respective organizations. There was not a time that you couldn't walk into either one of their classrooms and kids were not engaged. So their lesson planning, their ability to build relationships with students, their ability to work with a diverse population should not go unnoticed. With Ms. Dimmer and Ms. Muehlbauer, they will be missed. But no, as we always say, once a Falcon, always a Falcon. Once a Falcon, always a Falcon. And if you ever want to come on back home, just let us know. Thank you to both of you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kelsey Brown. And we always go with that sentiment when we have individuals that leave, and we always let them know, hey, this is all family. And we wish you the best. And hopefully you'll see and you'll want to come on back. So, all right, well, thank you very much. All right, let's go on to item number 5, engage board and community to lead. Dr. Kelsey Brown.
Yes, the board symposium is in conjunction with the Closing the Achievement Gap Consortium, which all of our board members have participated in over the years. So the date is February 2nd, 2022 at Wauwatosa West High School. Given our current conditions, there may be a pivot to virtual. I just have not heard anything yet. And our dinner begins at 6 o'clock and our speaker will be John Ashley from WASB. So we hope that we have a great contingency from our very own school district participating in this event. If you are interested in attending, please send Donna an email and we will make sure we get you registered.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Kelsey Brown. Board members, questions? I know that this event has always been well, we've always attended this in force whenever when this event has always happened. So again, board members, if you are available on the 2nd of February to be able to do this in person, or if it is virtual, let's see if we make sure that we represent, because it's always good information that is being shared in relationship to that. All right, let's go on to item number B, discussion and approval of the proposed YSAB resolutions. All right, board members, have we got an opportunity to take a look at the resolutions that were presented to us in our board packet? I think in reading all of them, they actually, to me, they actually all made sense in relationship to the verbiage and the information that was that they'd want to be able to do. I did want to actually really highlight the one in relationship to the Pacific Asian Islanders and being able to ensure that that information is also being shared within our schools as well too. Board members, do anyone have any questions in relationship to any of the resolutions that we'll actually be voting on tonight for our representative to share at the YSAB statewide conference?
Now, I would just say that it did seem like these were all really good this year.
Yeah,
So-
compared to last year, but yeah, they did, didn't they?
So yeah, I think these are pretty good overall.
All right. Anyone else have any questions or just even a statement in relationship to these resolutions? Ms. Zielinski.
No, I agree with Ms. Robinson. I, for the first time, have no feedback on them. I thought they were all good. Usually I've got points of contention with many of them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because I was thinking the same thing when I was reading through. I was like, wow, all of these actually really make sense. So, yeah. Anybody else have any other questions or any comments in relationship to this? Okay. And then Nicole, you are our representative this year, correct? Who's our representative, or would that be Felita? Felita, you're our representative. So, okay, so what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to vote on this to approve whether or not we wanted to be able to do this. So would someone like to be able to make a motion?
Yeah, this is Lisa. I
All
will make a motion that we approve the 2022 proposed WASB resolutions as presented.
Thank you very much, Mr. Linsky. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, is that Dorothea first?
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Now I'll just
Hearing-
add,
I'm
I'll
sorry,
just
go ahead,
say,
Lisa.
thank you, Felita, for representing us at this meeting.
It is my pleasure to serve this fine district of Brown Deer and the Brown Deer School District.
Thank you very much. All right, all in favor with a raised hand and or aye? All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0. So, Ms. Daniels Ashley, when you were at the YSAB meeting, the District of Brown Deer approves all of the resolutions.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, so now let's go on to our next item is our board retreat, Saturday, February 12th, 2022 from 9 to 12 p.m. Dr. Kelsey Brown?
You captured it all.
Yep, I guess that'll do it.
Just
Dr.
not-
Kelsey, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just not sure where yet, might be at the AS, we might hold it at the ASC. So location to be determined.
Okay. All right. So also, do we have an alternate date just in case of February 12th does not work?
The board can decide on an alternate date. This was what's noted on our board calendar. So this is the date that appears there.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So if any board members actually have, because we generally like to have all of our board members when we do our board retreat be in attendance. So if there's any board member that actually has a conflict in relationship to this date, could you please get that information to me so I can share with Ms. Ross, and if we have to do an alternate date, just in case. All right. So now let's go on to item number 6, to move into closed session for personnel matters. Would someone like to make a motion to move into closed session?
Dr. Beadle, this is Lisa.
All right,
I-
Lisa.
I make a motion that we move to closed session to discuss personnel matters, including administrative contracts pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85, paren 1, paren B.
And C.
Uh,
Did you get
the-
C?
The agenda does not say C,
Oh, 1B and C. Okay, all right.
just one and B.
Oh, mine has C on mine.
Well, the motion sheet does, but the agenda does not.
Oh, okay, all right. So with that being said, a motion has been made. Second.
Dr. Beater, I'll second.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Vick. All right, motion is made and seconded. Ms. Robinson.
Okay, roll call Beal,
Aye.
Daniels Ashley,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Robinson, aye. Smith,
Aye.
Zick,
Aye.
and Zelinski.
Aye.
All right, we will go now into closed session at 7:22 p.m. All the rest of our members and audience, thank you so much for attending Brown School District meeting and being able to hear and understand all of the different information and different things that are going on within the district. We want you to make sure that you continue to stay safe, stay warm, and again, take heed to what we've been talking about relationship to health related issues in relationship to COVID. And we thank you very much for your attendance this evening. All right, we will now move into closed session. Remember before we said we weren't going to do that. No, remember we said no, that we weren't going to do that.